coffee shop on Maple Street had seen better days. Its worn leather booths and chipped ceramic mugs spoke of decades serving the working-class neighborhood, a place where construction workers grabbed morning coffee and nurses stopped by after double shifts. It was the last place anyone would expect to find Marcus Bennett, though nobody there knew who he really was. Marcus sat in the corner booth, wearing a faded flannel shirt he'd bought specifically for occasions like this. His watch, a modest Timex instead of his usual Patek Philippe, showed 7:03 p.m., 3 minutes late. He'd learned that arriving exactly on time seemed too eager, too polished. Real people, people who worked actual jobs and worried about rent, they ran a few minutes behind. This was his 9th blind date in 4 months, each one arranged through well-meaning friends who knew him as Mark, the guy who worked construction and drove a 15-year-old pickup truck. They didn't know about the Bennett Technologies empire, the Forbes profile, or the penthouse overlooking the city skyline. They couldn't know. Every woman who'd discovered his real identity had transformed before his eyes, their laughter becoming calculated, their questions probing for net worth rather than character. The door chimed. Marcus glanced up and felt his carefully practiced indifference falter. She wasn't what he expected. Most of his dates arrived in designer clothes, trying to look casual, their makeup perfect, their smiles bright and hungry. This woman wore nurses' scrubs decorated with cartoon characters, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She had the kind of tired eyes that came from real exhaustion, not a long day at the spa. She scanned the coffee shop with the efficiency of someone who didn't have time to waste. "Mark?" she called out, her voice carrying a hint of uncertainty. Marcus stood, nearly knocking over his coffee mug. "That's me. You must be Rachel." Rachel Morgan crossed to his booth with quick steps, sliding into the opposite seat. "I'm so sorry I'm late. My shift ran over, and then I had to pick up my daughter from my neighbor's place, and traffic was—" She stopped herself, laughing slightly. "Sorry, I'm rambling. It's been one of those days." "No problem at all," Marcus said, genuinely meaning it. "Tough shift." "Pediatric ICU," Rachel explained, waving down the waitress. "We had a little boy come in this morning, car accident. He's stable now, thank God, but—" She trailed off, and Marcus saw the weight of the day in her shoulders. "Anyway, coffee. I need coffee." The waitress, a woman named Dolores who'd served Marcus on previous dates at this location, brought over a pot. "The usual, honey?" she asked Rachel with obvious familiarity. "You're a lifesaver, Dolores." Rachel wrapped her hands around the mug like it was a life preserver. "So, Mark, construction, right? That's what Jennifer told me." Marcus nodded, sticking to his script. "Framing, mostly. Residential buildings. It's good work." "Hard work," Rachel corrected, noticing his hands. They were too smooth, he realized suddenly. He'd forgotten to rough them up this time. "My dad was a carpenter. I remember how his hands always looked like he'd been in a fight with sandpaper and lost." "Office days are easier on the hands," Marcus improvised quickly. "I'm actually doing more project management lately. Less time with the tools, more time with the paperwork." Rachel studied him for a moment, and Marcus felt an uncomfortable flutter in his chest. Her gaze was direct, assessing, but not in the calculating way he'd grown accustomed to. She was simply trying to figure out if he was worth her extremely limited time. "Can I be honest?" Rachel asked suddenly. "Please." "I almost cancelled tonight. My daughter Sophie, she's 5, she had a rough day at kindergarten. Some kids were teasing her about not having a dad around, and she came home crying. I spent an hour just holding her, and then my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, she insisted I keep this date. Said I needed to remember I'm a person too, not just Sophie's mom." Rachel paused, taking a long sip of coffee. "But I'm going to be straight with you. I don't have time for games. I work 50-hour weeks, I'm raising a little girl on my own, and I'm drowning in student loans from nursing school. If you're looking for something casual or fun, I'm not your person." The speech should have sent Marcus running. It was the opposite of the carefree, available women he usually encountered. Instead, he found himself leaning forward, genuinely interested for the first time in months. "I appreciate the honesty," he said. "And for what it's worth, I'm not looking for casual either." "Really?" Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Because Jennifer mentioned you've been on a few dates recently. She seemed to think you were quite the eligible bachelor in the neighborhood." Marcus felt heat creep up his neck. His friend Jennifer, who ran the community center and had set up several of these dates, might have oversold his desirability. I've been looking for something real. It's been harder than I expected. Join the club, Rachel said with a wry smile. Every guy I've met in the past year either runs when they hear I have a kid, or they stick around for exactly 2 dates before ghosting. One guy actually told me I had too much baggage for him to deal with. Then he was an idiot. The words came out more forcefully than Marcus intended, but Rachel's smile widened into something genuine and warm. You haven't met my baggage yet, she joked. Sophie's amazing, but she's also 5, which means she has opinions about everything from what color socks I wear to whether the moon is made of cheese. Spoiler alert, she's convinced it's mozzarella. Marcus laughed. A real laugh that surprised him. Smart kid. Mozzarella is the most logical cheese for moon construction. They talked for 2 hours. Rachel told him about Sophie's obsession with butterflies, about the hospital where she worked, about her dreams of eventually becoming a nurse practitioner. Marcus, sticking to his construction worker persona, invented details about job sites and difficult contractors, hating each lie but unable to stop himself. The truth, that he owned a tech company worth billions, that his project management involved international deals and board meetings, felt impossible to confess now. I should get going, Rachel said finally, glancing at her phone. Mrs. Chen is wonderful, but she's 73 and probably ready for bed. Of course. Marcus stood with her, pulling out his wallet to pay for their coffee. Rachel was faster, slapping a $10 bill on the table. We split it, she said firmly. I don't need anyone paying my way. It was such a small amount of money, Marcus probably spent more on a single cup of coffee at his office, but her pride was evident. He nodded, adding his own 10 to the table. Outside the coffee shop, the evening air was cool. Rachel pulled a worn cardigan tighter around her shoulders. I had a really nice time, she said, and Marcus could tell she meant it. Would you want to do this again? Maybe meet Sophie? I know that's fast, but I don't have the luxury of dating for months before introducing someone to my daughter. If this is going anywhere, she needs to be part of the equation. Marcus felt something crack in his chest. Every instinct screamed at him to tell her the truth right now, before this went any further. But looking at Rachel's hopeful, tired, genuine face, he couldn't bring himself to risk the transformation he'd seen so many times before. I'd love to meet Sophie, he heard himself say. Rachel's smile could have powered the entire city. Saturday afternoon, there's a free butterfly exhibit at the Natural History Museum. Sophie's been begging to go, but I've been working every weekend. I managed to get this Saturday off. The Natural History Museum, Marcus repeated slowly. The Natural History Museum where the Bennett Wing had just opened, funded by a $50 million donation from his company. Where his photograph hung in the main entrance hall, next to a plaque thanking the generous support of Marcus Bennett and Bennett Technologies. That's perfect, he managed to say, his mind already racing through how he could possibly pull this off. Marcus spent the next 3 days in a state of controlled panic that his executive team found both baffling and amusing. Let me get this straight, his chief operating officer David Park said during their Thursday meeting. You want us to remove your photograph from the museum entrance. Temporarily relocate it, Marcus corrected, pacing his corner office. Just for Saturday afternoon. And the plaques, all of them in the Bennett Wing. The wing that's literally named after you. Can we temporarily cover the signage? David stared at him like he'd suggested selling the company for $1. Marcus, what is going on? You've been distracted all week. Yesterday you approved a budget proposal you'd already rejected twice. And this morning you called our Singapore partners at 3 a.m. their time because you forgot about time zones. Marcus sank into his leather chair, rubbing his temples. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sprawled beneath him, a kingdom he'd built from a college dorm room and a good idea. Everything he'd achieved, every success, every billion in the bank suddenly felt like an obstacle rather than an accomplishment. I met someone, he admitted finally. David's eyebrows shot up. The construction worker thing again? She's a nurse, single mother. She works at City General, raises her daughter alone, and she's the most real person I've talked to in years. Marcus pulled up Rachel's photo from her social media profile, limited and carefully private, mostly pictures of a little girl with pigtails holding butterflies and flowers. She thinks I'm a construction project manager named Mark, who drives an old truck. Oh boy, David muttered. Marcus, you can't keep doing this. Eventually, I know, Marcus stood again, unable to sit still. I know it's insane. I know I should have told her the truth immediately. But David, you should have seen her face when she talked about her ex, about the guys who've dated her just to leverage connections or who disappeared when they realized she had a kid. She's been through enough. So your solution is to lie to her. The words hit harder than Marcus expected. He turned away from David's knowing look, staring out at the cityscape. I just need time. Time to show her I'm interested in her, not just playing some game. Once she knows me, the real me, not the bank account, then I'll tell her everything. And you think she'll be fine with the deception? Marcus didn't answer because he didn't have a good one. By Friday evening, he